My name is Skylar Sakura Sabo. My pronouns are she, they, they, and I'm 31 years old. I'm a non-binary trans woman.
Hey, just a couple of things before we begin this video here. Firstly, I don't want this to be used against anybody who is a member of Maine Trans Net, and by extension, I don't want this to be used as fodder to attack the trans community. I am transgender. I am making the case that we need better support for trans people, not that we need no support. I'm saying that there needs to be different power structures at play, multiple power structures, diverse power structures. We need to do better than this. And so by extension, I want to make it clear that this is a video that has no basis to be in anybody's little hit piece here. In addition, since I'm the one making this video, I speak for myself, okay? I don't speak for other people, though I will be echoing other people's opinions, and I will be also responding to those echoed opinions. I speak for me, okay? I don't work for someone else. I'm not collaborating with someone else. I speak for me, okay? No drama, none of this bullshit, okay? We're adults here. We can handle this. We can handle criticism.
I don't want to make this video. In fact, I would rather be doing everything I can to stand in solidarity with the trans community. In a way, I hope that in making this video, that is what I'm accomplishing. As a trans non-binary person, I want nothing more than for class solidarity with my fellow trans and non-binary folks who are in need. Recently, I've made critical steps to not only work on myself, but to also be there for my friends, family, and comrades. People have helped me abundantly in the previous years in light of these dark times, and I have every intention of staying alive in spite of these dark times to pay it forward. So here's some disclaimers. I will be censoring out people's names. Everyone in this community is just as vulnerable as I am. I spent a few days really thinking over how I want to address this problem, and I figured that this would be the best way to do it, the best way to handle this situation in spite of everything that went on. So I am also worried that if I make this video, this will be interpreted as an attack, even though I have no intention of levying any kind of attacks here. The names that you will be hearing in this video will be changed for the sake of keeping their identities safe. I have no intention whatsoever of throwing people under the bus, even the people who messed up. I will also not be providing screenshots and images related to the situation, for the primary situation itself has been dealt with finally. In addition, I do not consent for people to use this video as a medium for attacks against the trans community. Whether you are a trans exclusionary radical fascist or a trans person themselves who are wearing assimilationist clown makeup, you do not have my permission to use this account for your predatory anti-transgender hit piece. And lastly, this is not an attempt at any form of so-called cancellation of Maine Trans Net. Maine Trans Net is an important part of the community here in Maine, and now more than ever, we as trans people need to support each other. Members and the leaders of Maine Trans Net need support as well. I do not blame you if you are listening in on this conversation and you feel uncomfortable with Maine Trans Net after the account I am going to share. But just know that the purpose of this video is strictly, and to make my intentions absolutely crystal clear, to make a call for better standards in the leadership of Maine Trans Net. Let's begin. In December of 2022, I received a Discord direct message from someone with a username that I had not seen before. We will call him Kyle, since I don't know his actual name anyway. This individual identifies as a trans man and has expressed a pressure to leave the state of Arkansas to come to the state of Maine. To me, he expressed some things that he needed, and I was interested in helping him despite my lack of resources. It's important to remember that in the month of December of 2022, I was in a much worse position than I am now, but I did not hear from this individual until April 6th of 2023, where he messaged me out of the blue. Here is how our conversation went. Kyle, there, I admitted that I'm gay. Are you happy? Skylar, refresh me, who are you? I'm glad that you came to terms that you're gay. Kyle, the fascist trans man. Skylar, you're a fascist? What the fuck? Kyle, exactly. Keep in mind, the topic of fascism has never come up before in our previous conversation. All I knew was that he was a trans man and was dealing with transphobic relatives. At this point, I decided to ask some probing questions. Sometimes when people are in desperate situations, they tend to speak in a way that is self-sabotaging. Some people do in fact burn bridges in the most destructive and impulsive ways. So I wanted to make sure that when I was speaking to Kyle, that I was talking to a fascist and not someone just simply under a lot of emotional distress who was trying to kill his own character. The conversation continues. Skylar, yeah, so let me make sure we are clear. You are a fascist? Like, not as a meme? You are a fascist, correct? Kyle, I am a fascist. I don't care. You're talking to one of the kids from Arkansas who was let down constantly. Now, I'm not 100% sure what he meant by this when he said that he was let down. I can assume a few things here. Maybe he was referring to his transphobic family, the transphobic Arkansas state legislature, or perhaps any transphobic fascist groups he was previously in, or fascist people that he was previously associated with. Otherwise, I have no idea what he is talking about or referring to. I still wanted to ask some final probing questions, just to be sure, which I already gave him more of the benefit of the doubt than I really should have. The conversation continues. Skylar, fascist how? Kyle, in the ideology. Skylar, Mussolini and all? Kyle, yeah. Shortly after, I simply blocked him. In the middle of this exchange, he was venting about his family and the devastation of them discovering he was gay. So I definitely felt bad for him, but as someone who has been on the receiving end of fascist attacks in the last 10 years, I am not the person to provide therapy or support for a fascist. I will explain why in a few minutes later in this story, as I have my reasons for not engaging in this conversation further. So Kyle came out to me as a fascist. There is a fascist in the Maine Trans Net Discord server. Honestly, that didn't sit well with me at all. It could be a potentially dangerous situation where many trans people in the state of Maine in that server would walk around with a target on their back for potential attacks from fascist groups. Initially, I figured the right thing to do was to inform the moderators. I began looking for the mods who were awake, or at least the ones who were visibly online. I began to send screenshots and gave proper context for the situation to all of the mods that I could find. To my dismay, none of the mods responded. I realized this conversation and report took place in the middle of the night, so perhaps people were asleep. I decided to try messaging one more person. We will call this person was the only one who I messaged that night who was visibly offline, but was also the only one who responded to my call for help, even in the middle of the night. I wholeheartedly believe that is the only one in that moment who gave a shit, as they did the best that they could to handle the situation with care and attention. A day later, I asked if they got an initial reaction from the moderator team, to which Banana said that it was being discussed that morning. It appeared that the only person who did anything about a fascist in their server was, and I waited several days to see if anyone was going to remove this self-described fascist. No such action occurred. It did not sit well with me. So on April 20th, which is supposed to be a day where I get lit as balls, I was sober the entire day. Coincidentally, it is also Adolf Hitler's birthday. So I decided that if there was going to be any time to act, the time was now. My original plan was to premeditate my message and arrange the screenshots to give the community and moderators an idea of what happened between Kyle and I, as well as the lack of response from the moderator team. I was going to drop everything in the lounge chat, which is basically this server's version of the general chat, at 1 p.m. that day. However, my plan was jeopardized a bit by my own doing. I foolishly made my server name as MTN moderators are enablers. I think that this situation drew a target on my back for the moderators, and I shouldn't have done that. So one of the mods, whom I actually did not message the night of April 6th, shot me a message. We will call this person Samus, like the character from Metroid. No relations. Samus just wanted to know what the server name was for. I responded by saying that there was a major security risk in Maine Trans Net. Samus asked what the security risk was, so I began typing, and as I was typing, I began to realize that what I was typing was going to be what I was going to say in the lounge all along, so I used this time to just say everything. I wanted to just get it all out at once, and I was just done immediately. I sent it to Samus and copied and pasted it in the lounge. So Samus had a copy, and so did everyone else. Before I continue with this story, some people have asked me if this move got me banned from the server, as I am no longer in Maine Trans Net. Well, the answer is no, I was not banned. And interestingly, the message I posted was never deleted as far as I'm aware. I chose to leave, and I did this for a couple of reasons. First, I meant what I said when I stated that Maine Trans Net is dealing with a major security risk, and I wanted other members to also know that as well. Secondly, I left as a form of protest. I know that if I had stayed, the mods would have some kind of power over me and use their authority to ban and terminate my membership. So I did this as a means to revoke them, the potential satisfaction of having that kind of power over me. I am thankful to have the opportunity to say that this story ended very well in my favor. In my time in Maine Trans Net, I have made plenty of friends, and it appears that these friends of mine also share the very real concern of a fascist in their Discord server. I will now share some of the comments that were shared by the members of the community. Names will be replaced with letters. Person A: a trans Nazi? Haven't seen that one before. Sarcasm. Person B: you'd think it would be impossible, but nope. Person A: maybe the GOP will give him big bucks to go on a tour and speak out against other trans people? He wouldn't be the first. Person C: yeah, so looking back through the message logs, he got kicked out of the server once before and then rejoined in September last year, saying he's changed. Clearly not, it seems. Person A: I hope he is dealt with soon and swiftly. Can't believe I'm typing this out, but maybe we should not have Nazis in our spaces? So casually admitting he's a Nazi too. They have gotten far too comfortable in our community. I would like to pause to reflect on this exchange. Firstly, I don't know if Kyle is a Nazi. I never said he was. He said he was a fascist. I don't even know what kind of fascist he is. What I do know is that he sympathized with Mussolini. So, regardless, a fascist is a fascist, but he isn't a Nazi, just for the record. Secondly, Person A is very correct in this take. Usually fascists are privy to hide their fascist ideologies and their intentions. Oftentimes, fascists will use code names, dog whistles, and virtue signalings to normalize their presence in society. This is why most Nazis don't wear the swastika these days, but instead use other co-opted images and symbols like the black sun, the folk nut, Pepe the Frog, and so-called national quote-unquote socialism, because they are against socialism, if you haven't figured that out yet. Even the swastika is culturally appropriated from Eastern Asian religions. Not to mention, skinheads have a very long anti-fascist history rooting in the United Kingdom to fight against anti-immigrant far-right extremists. That's a topic for another time, but the fact that this fascist was comfortable enough to outright say to me that he was a fascist really makes me feel uneasy with Maine Trans Net as a space when it comes to how they deal with fascists. The conversation continues. Person B: yeah, I agree. It makes me feel unsafe. Person D: at server moderators, can we have some acknowledgement that this has been seen and is being addressed? Some people may ask me why I took the time to say that trans people need support, but when I went out of my way to call out a person who identifies as a fascist, even though this person is transgender himself. After all, doesn't he also need support in light of his transphobic environment? Well, I think Person A said it best. Person A: I fell down the right-wing pipeline before understanding my identity, and I know a lot of other people did too. But that kind of growth has to be done away from the people you're harming or expecting to carry the emotional baggage of your beliefs. I really could not have said it better myself. People like Kyle need to be in a de-radicalization support group, not in a space where other trans people could be doxxed or harmed by covert fascists. Someone else may say, well, he says he's a fascist, but he hasn't harmed anyone yet. Yet. Yeah, yet. I don't want to find out when yet is. I am tired of the sea lion dorks who shift the goalpost for when is the appropriate time to worry about a fascist attacking our community. Again, he needs to be in a de-radicalization circle like Life After Hate, not in a trans circle. Can you imagine if a German Nazi was in a Jewish circle during the 1930s and he was saying, "Shalom, my Jewish brethren, let's celebrate Passover"? You would suspect him of being some kind of informant or something like that. One person who announced their arrival to the server had this to say, and this is a quote: "I'll come back and write an intro when the Nazi problem is resolved." After a while, one of the lead moderators finally stepped in and said something. This is what they said: "I would like to apologize profusely. This problem was brought to our attention and it slipped through the cracks in capacity. That is not an excuse, simply a reason. We should never have let it get that far. Again, I would like to apologize for not addressing this immediately. This is something we do take seriously. That user has been removed." So, yes, there was a happy ending to this story, and I'm pleased that this person was finally removed. But I think we still need to talk. And by talk, I mean about the part where they said, "We should have never let it get that far." because until we address that part of the apology, it comes off as a similar apology to the episode of South Park where they spoofed on British Petroleum apologizing for the oil leaks in the Gulf of Mexico. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure that each of the moderators have an unspoken code of conduct that holds no tolerance for fascism. So let me be clear when I say that I'm not accusing the moderators or leadership of harboring fascist sympathies themselves. But I think we can all agree here that I should not have gotten to the point to where I had to publicly out this fascist and the moderators in the lounge. It should have never gotten to that point, and it's pathetic that it did. More importantly, and moreover, this speaks volumes that y'all were quicker to remove a non-binary person of color than you were to remove a white fascist. So what I call for here is a critical restructuring of Maine Trans Net. Look, I know I'm a dumb anarcho-communist who doesn't know basic economics or whatever, but Maine Trans Net shouldn't be the one with the monopoly on trans support. We should also be supporting dual power and class solidarity. This includes mutual aid and nonviolent direct action that directly improves the material conditions of the community. I don't mean support your local LLC or small businesses who wave a rainbow flag during the month of June, because that is extremely performative and baseless in any form of class solidarity with your fellow trans people. No, I mean helping those who are doing the mutual aid direct action work for those in need. Because let's face it, trans people are not exclusive to the gentrified part of the neighborhood. You can bet that there are plenty of trans people who are homeless and regularly on the receiving end of police and state violence. In addition, we need to make the unspoken part of that aforementioned code of conduct against fascism more spoken. We need to have a direct understanding that fascism is a threat and a perpetual part of the trans genocide taking place in the inbred crust of the United States Empire. Maine is not safer for trans people just because there are less laws in place to oppress us. We need to protect each other and have each other's backs. No more infighting, no more tolerance for our own downfall, no more fascist bullshit. I never received an apology from the moderation team, but I think as long as the aforementioned demands are met, I don't think I need one. I think those demands being met would in fact be the appropriate form of apology, if any at all.
One last thing before I go, and that is I want to remind y'all that Pride Month is coming up very soon. Maine Trans Net needs to be privy to fascist infiltration on any spaces, including a Discord server. Proud Boys are saying that they are going to try to make their presence known during Pride Month. They are going to increase and accelerate their presence all over the fucking country, especially on Pride Month. And do you want to know what's fucking sad, y'all? Pride may actually be illegal next year. Then we gotta stop memeing be gay and do crime, and then we gotta do be gay and do crime. I swear to God, like all of this complicity with the status quo, it is gonna get us killed.